Hi guys, welcome to Conditionals One-on-One. So we're going to start with Conditionals 0 and first. Let's get started. Zero conditional. So the zero conditional, we use it to talk about events or situations that can occur at any time and their results. We often use it for actions that always have the same result. Or we can replace if with the word when if we are referring to a regular activity. So let's take a look at a few examples. So for example, if you use a hot iron on nylon, it melts. Okay? When I eat dairy products, מוצרי חלב, I get red spots on my skin. If or when you press this key, the game starts, and when you click here, it stops. If you can read this, you're driving too close to me. So now let's look at the rules, okay? We saw the examples, now let's look at the rules. We divide each conditional sentence, okay, each conditional full sentence into two parts. The first part is the if clause, okay? Clause, psukit, it's a part of a sentence that cannot stand on its own. So let's have a look. I'm going back for a second. The if clause, if you use a hot iron on nylon, okay? This is the if clause. The result clause would be, in this case, it melts, okay? And let's take this one as another example, the if clause. If you can read this, that's the if clause. And the result clause, you're driving too close to me. You can notice that the if clause will always use present tenses. Okay? We will also use the present tenses in the result clause. This is in the case of zero conditional only. So let's take a look at a song that shows us how useful it is, the zero conditional. As you can see in the song, Susan Vega says, if you hear something late at night, okay, and she uses present simple, if you hear, okay? She could have used when you hear something late at night, okay? So that was the if clause. If you hear something late at night, and the result clause would be, in this case, just don't ask me what it was. Okay, so don't ask me again. She's using the present simple. Let's move on to the first conditional. So the first conditional is a little different than the zero conditional. We use it to describe possible future events or a situation and their results. Keyword here would be possible. Okay, so there is an event. It might happen in the future. It's not sure that it will happen. It's not 100%, but it's pretty sure that it will happen. Okay, it's possible. So we often use it also for offers or suggestions and warnings. Okay, and I call it the parents or teachers conditional. Why? If you don't do your homework, you will fail in the test. Okay, that's one option. Or a parent conditional, if you don't clean your room, I will not give you the car. Okay, so that would be the parents or teachers conditional. So let's look at a few examples. If the result of the test is negative, you will receive an email from us. So we are not sure that the result of the test is negative, but it might be. If it is negative, you'll receive an email from us. I'll call the hotel if you don't have time. Again, if you don't have time is the if clause, and the result here would be I'll call the hotel. You're going to fail the test if you don't study. It's not sure that you'll fail the test, but it's possible. If the government can keep the loyalty of the army, they may stay in power. And last but not least, if global warming continues, there could be an increase in extreme weather conditions. Let's look at the rules. So with the first conditional, the if clause will appear using the present tense, and the result clause will be in the form of future. So we will see will, be going to, may, or could. All of them refer to a future event. So now let's take a look at this short clip for examples.
Hades is gonna kill us when you can't do a thing. Do a thing?
But you can't.
Really? What? I'll do anything.
Hercules, if you can prove yourself a true hero on Earth, your godhood will be restored.
A true hero. Great!
I'm too old to get mixed up in this stuff again.
But if I don't become a true hero, I'll never be able to rejoin my father, Zeus.
Hold it. Zeus is your father, right? Zeus, the big guy, is your daddy.
Look! I know what I did was wrong, but this isn't about me, it's about him. If you don't help him now, Phil, he'll die.
Okay, so we saw a bunch of possible future events. The if clauses always have the present tense, and the result clause will be in the future. So now let's compare between the zero conditional and the first conditional. So the first thing we want to talk about is likelihood, svirut. This is basically how we decide which conditional we are going to use. If the likelihood is that something is possible in the present, then we will use the zero conditional both for the present tense in the if clause, and we will use the present tense in the result clause, the zero conditional. However, when we look at the first conditional, okay, we're talking about possible future events. Okay, it's possible that it will happen in the future. So then the if clause will take the present tense, and the result clause this time will take a future tense. Will, be going to, may, or could. Keep in mind, and this is something super, super, super important, and it is relevant for all 4 types of conditionals. It is incorrect to use a future form in the if clause. So I cannot say if the weather will be good tomorrow, we'll have a picnic. This is completely wrong in English. It is correct in Hebrew, but it is wrong in English. If the weather is good tomorrow, we will have a picnic. Okay, so final task would be practice. Okay, so what should you do? The class activity, when you go into the presentation, it's actually a pair activity. You can do it in pairs and just do it together. Okay, you can see the information, what's the activity in the slide after I'll show you in a second. The individual activity you actually have, both here are links. This is a link to practicing zero conditional exercises. Okay, here we go. And you can check yourself. And the second link is to practice the first conditional. Okay, again, you can check yourself to see that you got it right. Last but not least, there's a very nice slide using zero and first conditionals for Russian superstitions. It's quite funny. I highly recommend it. It's also for practicing your conditionals. Just as a final comment, let me show you the class activity. So if you see, I'm going back to the practice slide, and you can see here, it used to be for a class with your neighbor or with any partner in Zoom or otherwise in a Google Doc, however you want to do it. Write down at least 4 different superstitions. Okay, superstitions, emunot, tfilot. Superstitions usually come in the zero or first conditional. For obvious reason, right? I'll give you an example. If you see a black cat, you will have bad luck, right? Or if you walk under a ladder, you will have bad luck. Okay, so that's it. If you have any questions, we will be able to discuss them in our grammar practice later in the week.